happens when life completely stops you in your tracks and everything you thought you knew no longer fit? Today's guest experienced a series of life-altering wake-up calls, from a brain tumor diagnosis to navigating major personal shifts, and what she discovered on the other side is something that every woman needs to hear. We're talking about rebuilding self-trust, finding confidence after disruption, and why sometimes the breakdown is actually what leads to your most aligned life. This conversation will change how you think about resilience, identity, and what you're truly capable of handling. I'm Amira Davis, and this is the Shifted Podcast, the show for women navigating the beautiful complexities of midlife with intention and clarity. If you're ready to move beyond surface level advice and into the real world of becoming who you are meant to be, then you're in the right place. So today's conversation is about what happens when life forces you to recalibrate. My guest, Beth Hammond, a reset and confidence mentor who helps women rebuild their lives after major wake-up calls. After navigating her own life experiences, Beth now supports women in reconnecting with themselves, building self-trust, and stepping into lives that actually feel aligned, not just acceptable. Beth, welcome to the Shifted Podcast. I'm so excited. I've been waiting for this for weeks. It's good to see you.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me on. I mean, I loved our first intro chat, and the fact that we met on Threads, I just think is brilliant.
I keep telling people, I think Threads is probably my favorite platform. I just feel like there's so many women on there that are just so positive, and everybody wants everybody else to do well. And it's just a breath of fresh air when you look at all the other crap that you see on social media now that's just like this person fighting with this person. I'm like, people, get a grip. Life's too short.
So much negativity. Whereas I think Threads is really, like you say, really supportive. And, you know, you just type in that you're looking to hang out with other people who feel and think the same as you do.
I love that. So before we dive in, let's do what we always do. Let's raise a glass, whether it be coffee, tea, water, whatever you've got, and see what we're toasting to today. I've got a moment. I've been drinking these. These are really, really good. They are adaptogens, like a botanical drink, because since I've gone through perimenopause and menopause, I can't drink anymore. So this is what I'm drinking. What you got?
Well, I never do this. I never put a cold drink in a mug, but for you, I have. So I've got lemongrass and ginger cordial with water. But I put it in a mug because this mug I love, and it says, "Go get 'em, Tiger."
I like that. I like that. Well, let's raise a glass. Congratulations.
Cheers to you.
What are we drinking to today, Beth?
Well, I think we're cheersing to a number of things. Cheersing to women choosing themselves.
Yeah, I like that a lot. These are very tasty. This one I haven't had before. This is pineapple lemongrass. So before we continue telling our love fest, Beth, can you share your story? What were the key life moments that led you to this work, the work that you're doing?
So I've been a confidence coach for women for like since 2004, but it was in 2019 that everything kind of massively shifted for me. And that was an opportunity to really see, one, I was in midlife. I'd hit 41. I'm now nearly 48. And I had a series of really big things happen to me in a very, very short space of time. And that gave me the opportunity to rebrand and really see that there was a huge area where women were sort of in that sandwich mode. You know, we're looking after our elderly parents, we're looking after our children or grandchildren, and we've sort of got this period of time where actually around me, a lot of people were going through some really difficult stuff as well. And it's that time when you think you're going to have had it all together, but actually everything can feel really fragile and you can lose your confidence. And so I sort of put my efforts into rebranding as resetting, an opportunity to reset, push the reset button, and just sort of before you go into your next chapter, it's like, hold up, you know, is this actually what I want? Is this working for me now? And I love it.
Was there any kind of defining moment that you had when you realized that you wanted to rebuild things differently than probably what was going before?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I was diagnosed with a large brain tumor in 2019, completely out of the blue. And I was just like, that sort of stuff happens to other people. I didn't know anyone who'd had a brain tumor. Of course, once you've had one, everybody knows somebody who's got one. It was a huge operation. It was a massive shock. And I thought I was invincible, if I'm honest. I kind of had that sort of, you know, nothing's going to hurt me. Nothing's going to touch me. I'm okay. Like, yeah. Life's been really kind to me. Of course, there were some things that I'd been putting off and bubbling away in the background. You know, nothing changes overnight, but it was an opportunity to go, this is like my next opportunity. If I make it through this unscathed, I am not going back to doing things that I didn't really enjoy. hanging out with people who I didn't particularly want to spend my time with, and being married to the person who I was married to. It was good, but it wasn't great. So it was, next chapter.
Yeah. It's interesting. I feel the older we get, the more I think, when we were younger, a lot of us, especially women, are so much like, I want to have a million friends. I want to have all these people that I hang out with. And I think the older we get, we become more discerning with who we choose to hang out with or spend our time with, and are fine with it falling off. Like I look at people that I was really close with, 15, 20 years ago, and for whatever reason, we don't speak anymore. I don't have bad feelings toward most of them. And, reconnecting with some of them, even now, I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Like we had fun, but it's just, we're in different phases of life. Not that either one of them is good or bad, but just that I'm in a place that I'm like, you're still doing the things that you were doing when you were 20 and 30. And those are things that my kids are doing. Like, let's move on.
And I think that's having that attachment, isn't it? There's a sort of romantic, nostalgic feeling about keeping people in your lives because there's a history. But when you realize that actually, if I met that person in a bar or cafe and we had struck up a conversation, we've got nothing in common other than talking about things that we used to do when we were 9. It was great then, but it gets a bit boring going around talking about the same thing again and again. I think ages, phases, and stages with friendships and any relationship, actually. It's no one is with you forever. It's just you who you're with forever.
So you talked about resetting your life a little bit. What does that actually mean in practice if you're going to reset your life?
For me, the way that I interpret it is reconnecting with actually what matters to you. I think we're so used to doing and being busy, and I don't subscribe to busy. It's one of my big things. I just don't do busy. But we often don't take a moment to check in with what we're doing. And we can find ourselves really disconnected to like, actually, who am I? And what do I like? And what are my values? Is what I'm doing just out of sort of nostalgia and because I'm used to it and it's comfortable? Or is it actually fitting who I am now? So resetting for me is about taking the space, making the space to have clarity of mind and be able to sort of zoom out and look at what is important to you now. And then strip away the stuff that isn't without guilt, which takes some practice. We have been beautifully conditioned to behave and act in a certain way, and that can take some learning. But all the stuff I've been doing for the 15 years before my first tumor, it's come back. But my first tumor, it was like I had this mammoth toolkit. I was so prepared with all of these fantastic tools that I knew and believed in, but I hadn't actually had to put them to the test when the really hit the fan. So yeah, it's reconnecting with yourself. It's editing out the stuff that you don't want to do, and it's creating more time for the things that actually bring you joy.
Yeah.
Like if this was your last day, is it good enough?
That's true. I think I follow you. Obviously, we follow each other on social media. And I saw you and I were talking back and forth about gardening. And I was thinking about that. And I've, been waiting because the weather out here sucks all the time and it's just starting to get better. And I think about like the perfect day. And the perfect day for me is being outside with my dogs and my husband. And he's doing whatever he's doing. And I'm sitting in my garden just puttering around. Like that's with my kids around. Those things are the important ones. And it's funny because people will say that I'm a workaholic, like you're working all the time. And I feel like in my mind, I'm like, I'm working so much to be able to afford the things that we have. But then is there any joy if I'm not, stopping to smell the roses a little bit?
I mean, I do a lot of pockets of joy. I think it's unrealistic to think that you can, every day is a joyful day and every day is going to bring you happiness and excitement and fulfillment. There is a lot of stuff that we don't want to be doing that we have to do. And that's part of life's rich tapestry, right? But in amongst all of that, there are little windows, little pockets of joy that you can, I actively seek out, especially when things are difficult, because they are the moments that matter and they're around us all of the time. But sometimes we can miss them through the busyness of being busy and doing stuff. And actually, if you love your job and you love what you're doing, it's the old adage of if you do something you love, it doesn't feel like you're working.
Yeah, no, that's true. So you've got in your Reset with Beth, you've got a reset framework. What do women experience in the 12 weeks that you do this reset framework?
So I run this program and it's coming out next month. I ran it before Christmas and I've just tweaked it a bit and extended it a bit. But essentially, it takes you through the framework of recognizing where you're at so you can reconnect with what's important to you, see what doesn't fit anymore, and make those small shifts so we're not sort of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Setting your standards. So when we set our standards, we have a perimeter to work around. When we don't know what our standards are anymore, we don't know who we are anymore, we don't know what we want anymore, we don't know what we value, we're kind of loose cannonish. And as we get older and we lose our confidence sometimes, we then stay smaller. We don't take many risks, so we stay smaller. So setting your standards, what do you want things to be like? And then it's embedding it. So it's doing it. It's taking the action, small action, so that you get really used to this being your new normal. And it's essentially all around self-trust. It's being able to trust yourself. So it's a 12-week program. It's a series of modules that people work through with videos, audios, print off things if people prefer. Everyone learns in a different style. And then there's live calls, group calls, and then there's 2 one-to-ones in there as well. So you've got it's a hybrid of, there's a community, but you can get as involved or as you want or don't. But you've also got those pockets of half an hour one-to-one, so you can work with me on a personal basis. So all of the groups that I've run beforehand have been really, really transformational. And it's really fascinating to see women, one, put themselves first, cheersing to putting ourselves first, investing in themselves to say, yeah, I matter as much as all these people who I'm busy caring for all the time, to the detriment of our own well-being and happiness and fulfillment, and actually having the courage to make changes. And it's not baby out with the bathwater and everything going crazy. It's just little sustainable changes can make massive differences to our lives. So that's what I help women do on a one-to-one basis, but also in the reset. So I'm excited to get that going.
I love that. You talked about self-trust a little bit. What kind of role does self-trust play when you're trying to rebuild after something happens that's difficult?
Self-trust is the bedrock for everything. So having been a confidence coach for many, many years, we think of confidence as being performative and how we show up. Actually, it's much quieter than that. It's self-trust. It's the bend, don't break. It's the very bedrock, I believe, from what everything else can flourish from. So when we are resetting and we are apprehensive about making changes, when we can come back to ourselves and think, is this a truth, for one? Our brains are very good at making things up. What we believe to be true is. And so you have the power to be able to go, oh, maybe I might be wrong, because it's also quite nice to be wrong sometimes. We can be very definite about always being right all the time. And it's like, oh, hold on a minute, I can actually be wrong. That's liberating. That means I also don't have to get into that I have to prove myself or be sort of pushing water uphill. So reconnecting with what's important to you and having a real sense of why that's important to you, and connecting that to, how do I know if I start to doubt myself, doubt my capability, doubt how I'm going to respond, how do I come back to that sense of self-trust? And it's choosing examples. And we make hundreds of decisions before we've even got out of bed, but we're so used to them, we don't even realize we're doing it. So it's sort of getting more curious about our behaviors, being more interested without looking from a place of shame or guilt or frustration or angst. It's not about resistance. It's not about pushing it. It's like, okay, that's interesting. I've been saying this a lot of the time and it's not perhaps true. And maybe it isn't going to all go so badly. And when you trust yourself, it's not that you trust yourself that everything is going to be okay, because we know we have very little within our actual control. But what is in our control is our beliefs and how we respond. And that if you trust yourself, you know that you can handle the fallout. So when things don't work out, which sometimes they don't, it's like, okay, well, that's all right. I can come back to myself. I know what I believe in. I know what I value, and I can be okay with that.
I like that. So looking back, 10, 15 years or so, what would you tell the version of yourself before everything shifted? What would you say to yourself?
You're right. You're
Yeah.
damn good.
Yeah.
Don't forget it.
I like that.
Yeah, I've always been a confident within myself. But I would tell myself, you might think it's going to be okay, and maybe you're telling yourself it's going to be okay, but I have your back and you actually are going to be okay. You know, there's a sort of, you can say things to yourself without 100% really believing it because, you know, repeat the mantra.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, I think if I was to say to my, you know, what I would say 10 years, yeah, you've got this. You can go get them, tiger. You know, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
stop people pleasing. Stop saying yes because you're worried about upsetting somebody
Yeah.
and then slowly combusting inside as you're full of resentment.
I like what you said earlier, where you said that we're the only ones that are going to be with ourselves forever. And I was thinking about that. I don't know if I told you, it might have been you that we had this conversation. The first AI picture that I did that came out okay, I took a picture of myself 15, 20 years ago, and it was holding a picture of myself when I was 4. And it brought tears to my eyes. It's on my Instagram page. You'll have to take a look at it. But
Yeah,
it
I
brought tears
will.
to my eyes. And my dad actually sent it to my mom, and she showed my dad, and my dad's like, mind was blown. He's like, I don't understand. He was like, this is Amira. He goes, but this is Amira. They were both me. But for me, it was like a comfort thing, like holding yourself and letting the little one know that you were okay. It was one of the best pictures. It's on my Instagram.
I will have a look after this. It's also interesting. It's like the rocking chair exercise. What are things going to be like in 40 years? What will I be thinking? What will I be saying to my 47 and a half, nearly 48-year-old self now? Because my capacity has changed massively. And, you know, when we were talking, we're both high energy people, and it's not that I like to be busy, but I'm a doer, and I'm energetic and I'm enthusiastic, but my capacity has changed. And that's been really difficult for me to get my head around because I don't want to waste time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Life is short and tomorrow is promised to no one. So that can be tricky with the capacity angle. You know, you look back at what we might think when we're 80. I think my younger self, I'd say, why didn't I take more pictures?
Yeah. Yeah. I tell my husband that all the time, like, take the pictures. And so I find him now taking pictures more of me than, because we don't really have any when I was younger. I've got tons of the kids and tons of him, but I was always the one to take the pictures. And now I find randomly taking them like in the yard or wherever. And one of my favorites was last year I was out in the garden and I had on my overalls and whatever, and I was just gardening, and he's like, now is this something that you could use? I'm like, it's not something I could use because it's something that I just cherish. Like, I like this to be able to look back on something that brought me joy. So
And it's the bits when it's not posed, right? I mean, I spend my
yeah.
life in front of my phone with selfies and doing and talking to camera, but it's like the little pockets of joy. It's the
Yeah.
bits that you can easily miss,
Yes.
but they're so beautiful on their own. You know, like gardening, and somebody's just caught you, you know, secateurs out. I mean, I love that.
Percent. So I think I sent you my garden, didn't I?
Yeah,
Yeah. So what do you want? Women are listening, and you and I met on Threads, and I think I had put out the call and just said, I have a podcast. I want to be able to get women's voices out. I want to hear from different women about different experiences. And, a lot of the things I do are about leadership. And so we talk about that, but we talk about way more than that. So if you're talking to any woman, what would you want them to understand about their own capacity? Because you talked about that earlier too, to handle life's storms.
I would say one of the biggest things is asking for help doesn't mean you can't cope. It's one
I
of the
like that.
biggest struggles that I know that I have. I pretty much most, if not all, of the women who I work with, who are strong, capable, bright women, spinning lots of plates. And when you're known for being that person, if the mothership goes down, who's going to catch you?
Yeah.
And yes, it's great to be self-reliant, but we do need people to support us. But it can be really difficult to ask for help, and we're not used to asking for help because we can feel like that might make us look as though we can't cope. And actually, what I would say is people want to help.
Yes.
Often we can be difficult to offer the help to because we look fine, and therefore people don't want to imply that you might want some help because you've never needed it before.
Very true.
And also that you can change your mind. I think that's a really powerful thing.
Yeah. Yeah. My husband works with people who talk about that all the time. and think that if you change your mind, it's a sign of weakness. And I like to say, no, it's maybe just getting a different perspective. Like maybe this is how I thought. And now you've given me a completely different perspective, which I didn't think of before. And so I do have the right to change my mind. And it's not because I'm wishy washy, it's because I've got a different view now. And so my perspective has changed. And so I love that because I think a lot of people get so set in, I said this. And since I said this, this is how I have to go. And if I go anything different or waver, people are going to think something horribly about me. And I'm like, that's not the case.
And it's so liberating when you change your mind. When you say, actually, yeah, that just doesn't fit anymore. I was vegetarian, a really strict vegetarian for 7 years. And then I sort of turned around and I was like, why am I still a vegetarian? Those things weren't upstanding anymore for me. And
right.
Yeah, I won't tell you how I broke the vegetarianism. It's not one of my finest moments.
I'd like to know because my girlfriend was a vegetarian and I made her eat a burger and then she's been eating burgers ever since. I was like,
yeah.
Oh,
mine was a Big Mac. It was a brutal fool. But it's all right to change your mind. And I think the other thing is what it shows other people, especially as a role model. You know, I have 2 teenage daughters who I'm raising. I'm, single parent. Their dad lives around the corner, but it's predominantly me looking after them. And I want them to know that they too can change their mind. That just because they thought a relationship was great or because they thought the career that they'd chosen was going to be, the job for life, they wanted to live in the same country, in the same house forever. It's okay. It's okay to change your mind. It's liberating. And if you stay in a vortex of people all thinking the same thing, all doing the same thing, all being the same, your world gets smaller and smaller. And then, of course, from a confidence perspective, as our worlds can get smaller, our confidence shrinks, and then we feel more apprehensive about making change. And it's a long life to be not feeling great.
Yeah.
And it's a really short life when life feels great. So
that's very true. I really like that. That's very true. Well, thank you so much for sharing all your information. I'm really excited. I want to get a little bit more into what you do, but we always end with a journal prompt. And so I can give a journal prompt, or if you've got something that you want to give for a journal prompt.
I did write one down.
Oh, I love it.
What part of my life no longer fits who I'm becoming? And what would it look like to release it? So what feels heavy?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of heaviness. And that weight doesn't lift on its own. That's the spiral that we go in going, I'm sure tomorrow is going to be better.
Yeah. I like that.
That's where the action comes in. So yeah, what feels heavy, what feels performative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's a really big one for when we are people pleasers and we are seen as overgiving. And I definitely have been, fallen foul for that. What feels performative?
Yeah. I like that. So if you could give one piece of advice to women, I know we gave one earlier, but one piece of advice to women that are listening, and we're starting to get a little bit younger, like a lot of women have been watching and listening and saying, I wish I had somebody more like this to tell me things. So if you could talk to somebody that was our age or a little bit younger, going through a shift right now, what's the one piece of advice that you would give to them?
Don't wait for certainty. Certainty is not coming, and embrace that that's okay.
Yeah, that's very true. Very uncertain, but in a good way, because I don't want it to be just predictable. Like, I would like to know everything, but I really don't want to know everything. I think I do.
Yeah, I don't want to know everything.
Yeah.
One, I don't think I'd remember it, and that would I'd be like, what was happening?
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think it's uncertainty and knowing that you can handle that.
Yeah, I like that. Well, thank you, Beth. Thank you for sharing your story and your perspective very openly. I appreciate it. So you can find Beth and you can learn more about her work at resetwithbeth.co.uk, and I'll have everything in the show notes. And you can also connect with her on Instagram. She's very active on Instagram. She's active on Threads. She's at reset_with_Beth, and on YouTube, Reset in all caps with Beth. And then also, like I said, on Threads. And I still got to, I love Threads. It's sometimes I just can't figure it out. Like I go to Instagram to get to Threads, but I feel like I don't need to do that. I think I can just go to a Threads app. I just need to download it. I don't know.
I have no idea how to.
Me either. But if you're ready to recalibrate your life and rebuild self-trust, her Reset program is a very powerful place to start. So until next time, keep asking the hard questions and trusting your own instincts. Again, I'm Amira Davis, and this has been the Shifted Podcast. So no reset here. Thank you. Until next time.